panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now.
Good morning and welcome to our first webinar for New Zealand in 2018, or our introductory webinar. If you don't know me, my name's Bevan Anderson. I'm the CEO of AvSoft Australia, the people that produce AvPlan EFB. Personally, I've been flying for 28 years and I've done a lot of flying in Australia, New Zealand and the United States. And I am the founder of the company as well. It was my idea that sort of where AvPlan EFB began. What AvPlan EFB was envisioned to be a replacement for my kneeboard that I used to take flying. And on that kneeboard, I used to have, my flight plan and nav log clipped on one side and then all the maps and charts and things clipped on the other. And in landscape orientation, as you can see, that's pretty much how it works. We've got our nav log / flight plan on one side and maps and charts and airport information on the other. The app is designed that this nav log should be visible at all times and doesn't obscure anything and stop you interacting with the app in any way. You can choose to hide the nav log with the button there up the top and sort of go into a full screen map, or we can tap it to show it. But with that flight plan visible, you can interact and do everything you need to do inside the app. It's sort of one of the design goals. So as you fly along, you can keep referring to this electronic flight plan as you go. The nav log itself, has things like the aircraft call sign, a series of waypoints to your destination, summary information, and so on. Inside the actual nav log, we have altitudes and lower safe altitudes, or grid lower safe altitudes when they're in brackets, like that one there. Tracks and headings. So we calculate all great circle tracks and then do the magnetic variation and so on as once we take into account winds aloft. Your TAS and ground speed. The TAS comes from the aircraft performance model, and then the ground speed comes after we apply the appropriate wind correction. Winds aloft, which comes from a global wind model, the aviation one, distributed by, basically globally. We don't yet incorporate area winds under 10,000 feet in New Zealand, but that will be coming sometime soon. Distances, and then distance remaining to your destination. And then the time it's going to take you, for example, to get from Ardmore to Timaru, it's going to take 38 minutes, for example. And then to Palmerston North, 29 minutes, and then to Masterton, 13 minutes. Obviously, these time intervals take into account any time taken to climb, cruise, descend, and so on, and that the variation in that all comes from the aircraft performance model. Under the flight plan, we have a series of 5 buttons. The first one, when you tap it, pops the plan into edit mode, and then we can do things like rearrange the track points in our flight plan if we wish. We can quickly delete things, and so on. You also get a few extra buttons down the bottom of the flight plan to clear the times, the track log, any fixes, and then the passenger list. And then you can do major changes to your plan. Reverse it, which will add waypoints from Masterton back to Ardmore. You can invert the plan, which basically just turns it upside down. So instead of going from Ardmore to Masterton, we will be going from Masterton to Ardmore. And then you can append another flight plan to the bottom. Tap Edit to take it out of edit mode. You can refresh the weather by tapping the curly arrow. You can select a particular aircraft that you want to use. I have a lot, but you probably have only a few. Once you find the particular aircraft you want, you can just tap on it to load it into our flight plan. And then it's now loaded. Papa, my Papa, which is a Bonanza. Actually, it's one that I flew to New Zealand and around New Zealand in 2005. There's a few buttons here that allow you to select whether you're doing a VFR or IFR flight plan. And then the plan and fly button changes the way the app behaves. So when we're in planning mode, which we are now, the map is very responsive and sort of slides around and so on. And then when we pop it into fly mode, things like the map stop being responsive so much to touches so that it stops as soon as I lift my finger. When we're in fly mode, we start recording our ground track so we know where we've been, and a few other things that we'll talk about as we go. I'll pop it back into plan mode, for example. This route button allows us to select various auto routing options, especially for those that fly IFR. So it'll then auto route you down various IFR routes. And we can also see if there's any flight plans that have been filed between those two airports and then copy that particular flight plan, but there's none in this case. Down the bottom of our nav blog is a description box, which just is a free text field that you can enter some information about the plan, so it's sort of easy to find in the index of flight plans. Now on the right-hand side, we have a whole bunch of tabs down the bottom. These are sort of ways that we try to logically group information to sort of make it easy to find things. So for example, we have planning, which basically holds all the pre-flight planning activities like finding the optimum altitude to fly out. Just stand by.
How's it going? And your last name?
Anderson.
That should be easy to spell. Thank you.
No, thank you.
How's it going?
Delivery of my new HomePod. Anyway, aircraft loading. So we can, put people and fuel in the aircraft. We can get a briefing from IFS. We can file a flight plan and so on. Work out what we need to log post-flight. Next we have en route. That's where all the maps live. As you can see here, we've got the VMC map for New Zealand and all the IFR charts as well. They're all geo-referenced, so they show where you are. The little aircraft symbol will be there. We draw a little green line behind you, where you've flown. We've got our depiction of the flight plan here in red. And then we overlay a whole bunch of other airspace and other information. So you can see here we've highlighted sort of active, restricted and danger areas on the map. We look at NOTAM information now and even highlight airspace that is not depicted on the chart but is in a NOTAM. You can see controlled areas and so on. You can see these coloured dots. If I zoom in, there should be more. So we see these yellow dots and blue dots. They're METARs. So we can see what the weather's going to be like at various places. So green means it's a lovely VFR day. Blue means it's VFR, but the cloud's less than about 2,500 feet. Yellow means the cloud's less than 1,000, and red means the cloud's less than 500 feet. To view a particular METAR, we can tap on it with our finger. So let's tap here near Napier. And we've got the METAR up the top of our nearest items display. So we can see the METAR there in its sort of encoded form. If we tap on it with our finger, we get the encoded form and then the decoded text as well. To find out about airspace information, we can double tap on the map with our finger. So I double tapped here and we can see the airspace for that particular area. So we can view the NOTAM for that particular airspace area. We'll go back and we could look at also the area forecast for that particular area as well. So to find out about airspace, things in the air, double tap on the map. Now to find out about things on the ground, just tap on the map. So tap on the map near Napier and we get the nearest items window, and that displays all the sort of bits of, all the waypoints, aviation information around where you tapped. You can use these buttons here to change the scope. So for example, we only want to look at airports. And then we can see Napier and Hastings, for example. If we want to find out about a particular airport, we can tap on the airport symbol with our finger. Brings up details about that particular location. So name and identifier, height above sea level, latitude, longitude, beginning and end of daylight time, the METAR, the TAF, and the ATIS. You can tap on both the METAR and the TAF to get the weather in plain text. So there's the decoded and then the encoded, and then the decoded text below. The current period is highlighted in blue, so wind, temperature, and then any tempo periods that are valid too are highlighted, but they're highlighted in red to make them stand out. So we've got the ATIS. If we keep scrolling down, we can see if there's any NOTAMs, which there isn't. And then we can see the charts that are available. So they're all the AIP pages for a particular place. And if we want to look at one, we can just tap on it with our finger and we'll go to the airport page for that particular airport. So the terminal page opens for that particular chart. Go back to en route. So another example, let's tap on a waypoint. We get that same waypoint details for that particular place, Masterton. We've got the METAR, TAF, nearby ATIS, NOTAMs and so on. And then all the charts. Weather information can be turned on and off with the little radar button second from the top up at the top. So I've got METARs and lightning turned on. Other things that are available, we have weather radar in Australia, in the United States, Europe and so on, but not yet in New Zealand. Infrared satellite shows you an infrared satellite overlay on top of the map. Looks something like that. The colours are an indication of the temperatures of the cloud tops. So from sort of light grey means the temperature is quite warm, so the cloud tops are quite low, to as the colours get darker and redder. So it goes from blues to yellows to reds. The cloud tops are getting higher and higher. You can see the time and date pops up here. That shows you the time of the image and how long ago, 28 minutes ago. A few other things we have: surface pressure and freezing levels. Freezing level forecast looks something like this. We have also a bunch of map overlays that can be enabled. So under map settings, which is the first button at the right at the top, we can enable the aircraft track, which is a little green line that it records behind you. We can turn on route markers, which are these little dashes along the flight plan, so they can be every 10 minutes and so on. We can edit the map, so this allows us to actually draw on the map itself. Similarly to if you had a paper chart, you can draw on with your finger or with a stylus. We can enable or disable a HUD, which are these boxes at the top of the map up here, which shows you, your active waypoint and altitude and speed and so on. We can turn on the course pointer, which is a dashed line that comes out of the front of the aircraft symbol, which shows you where you're going to be in 2, 5 and 10 minutes time. So the size of this dynamically changes as your ground speed changes. A terrain overlay showing you sort of terrain around your current position. So terrain that's 500 foot below you and above will be red. If anything between 1,500 feet and 500 feet below is yellow. Route annotations, which are these markers for top of climb, critical points, top of descent, and so on. Traffic. So if you connect AvPlan EFB to an ADSB receiver, you'll see little traffic symbols. Additionally, we have a tracking system called AvPlan Live that you can enable, which sends us your location as you fly along, and then we send that to other people so that they can see you on the map. Additionally, we record that so that if you don't turn up at your destination, we can tell people where you are last located. You have distance rings around the aircraft, which are 3, 5, and 25 nautical mile circles around you. So they're good to have enabled so that it sort of keeps that relationship between yourself and the map and what you see outside, because you've got this infinitely zoomable map now. Not like the old days with the paper chart that the scale doesn't change. So that's particularly good. Rocket boxes are these little blue boxes that appear on your flight plan showing you the tracks and headings to fly and the distance to go. A cursor for showing you very accurate placement of lat and longs on the map. And you can import KML files, so sort of shape files into AvPlan EFB, and they'll be then overlaid on the map. Back to the top, we have view items. If we tap on that, we can turn on a whole bunch of different options. So your runway centre lines, basically little markers on the map that look like this. So runway centre lines is a 5 nautical mile extension on the runway. If we have the latest weather, as we do in Masterton right now, we can highlight the most into-wind runway, so it's green. So if you need to fly a 5-mile final, you can fly to the end of here and then fly down. We can overlay airport information, which shows you a little diagram of the airport and then some useful bits of information like the CTAF or tower frequency and so on, altitude. As you fly along, we can draw a little boundary around your aircraft showing you where you can glide to if you have an engine failure. And that takes into account winds aloft, the performance of your aircraft and terrain. So you'll see that blob, we call it, because it's this green blob that sort of morphs as you fly along. Helicopter landing sites, authorised private airfields, obscure information, nav aids, VFR and IFR waypoints. Scrolling down, we've got airspace and active airspace. So I have them enabled and I suggest that you should too. So that draws airspace on the map, and also active airspace being the restricted areas and so on that are active, IFR routes and so on. At the bottom of the map, we have a number of controls. The first one is an arrow. When that's red, the aircraft will be locked in the centre of the screen. If I do that, you'll see where I am in Colorado at the moment. The next button now changes the map orientation. When it's sort of this sort of black colour, you can rotate the map any which way you wish. And it rotates around the centre of the screen. If we tap it once, it turns orange and the map's now locked north up. If we tap it again, we're now the plan track up, so the aircraft moves to the bottom third and now it'll follow the flight plan. And then when it's purple, tap it again, turns purple, now we're track up. So the aircraft will always be, or the map will be orientated so that the map is facing where you're headed. And then if we tap it again, we go back into free rotation. Let's go back to New Zealand. New Zealand. There we go. We have a HSI loop, which you can turn on and off, and then synthetic vision, which shows you this synthetic view out the front of the aircraft. If you pair it with an ADS-B receiver with an AHRS, it'll get attitude information as well. And then lastly, a flight profile showing you airspace, your flight plan, terrain with the highest point along our route, and then to our destination. If we want to find a particular place, we can tap on the magnifying glass up here at the top and type in either a name or identifier. So if you don't know where Christchurch is, for example, tap on it with our finger and it centres the map on that particular location. Got a few buttons here to change the brightness. We got online help, which if you tap, shows you a quick tutorial, something that points to all the buttons, and then we can dismiss it. We've got direct to, so showing you things that are nearby, or we can type in somewhere and go direct to there. Dismiss. Gets rid of it. So next we have terminal. That's where all the airport information lives and also where the AIP lives. There's 3 different ways of finding information about an airport. The first is to use our flight plan here on the left-hand side. If we tap on a particular place, let's tap on Masterton, it will open the terminal page for Masterton. You can see the latitude and longitude, beginning, end of daylight time, height above sea level, and so on. We've got details about that leg, Met information, which is the TAF and ATIS and METAR. We have NOTAM information, if there are any, winds aloft, a satellite image of the airport, and so on. Now to find the AIP pages, we can swipe with our finger. If we want to get quick access to things, we can use a 3-finger tap and we'll bring up these thumbnails and we can quickly find a particular chart. So again, a 3-finger tap on the chart on that page, and we can then swipe to find a particular page we want to. So again, if we want to find out about Ardmore, we can tap on that. Brings up Ardmore. We can look for Met information. If we don't have any nearby information, actual TAF for that particular airport, we'll show nearby TAF and nearby METARs, sorted by distance. NOTAMs, so all the active NOTAMs for that particular place, and then we can swipe for the charts. So the second way is we can use this book icon at the top right, tap on it with our finger. It shows you Ardmore with the weather and NOTAMs and then all the AIP pages. And then all the airports are down the left-hand side. We can search for an airport by typing in. Tap on it, we see all the charts. So again, back to our book. We can also search by name. You can type part of a name and then tap search, and then it'll show you all places with that particular piece of text in their name, and we can go to Whenuapai and then look at all the charts or the weather and so on. So lastly, we can go to a particular AIP or a particular terminal page just by tapping on the map. So let's tap on the map at Ahakia, tap on the airport symbol, takes you to the waypoint details, we can see the Met information and so on, and then you can see all the charts as well. So we can tap on the aerodrome chart, brings up the aerodrome chart. So see that again, en route, you can tap on the map, let's tap near Fielding for example. Tap on the airport symbol on the left hand side, takes you to the airport information for Fielding. You can see nearby weather and NOTAMs and then the AIP pages. Tap on a particular page to view it. Now while we're on these pages, you can see that they're geo-referenced. There's our particular flight plan in here. You'll see your aircraft as you fly along, particularly useful on the VFR arrivals and departure charts and so on. If it's in the wrong orientation, we can rotate it with our fingers to put it in the correct orientation. Once you've rotated it once, it will remember for the life of that chart. And again, if we want to see other charts, we can swipe with our finger. So there's the VFR arrival chart. It's, again, geo-referenced, so you'll see yourself as you fly along, so you can just sort of fly down these arrows and get where you need to go. Additionally, with this little squiggle button, we can overlay the map, the chart on the actual map. So if we tap Show Chart on Map, overlays the VFR arrival chart on the map. Then flight plan, weather, traffic, all that sort of stuff will be overlaid on top of that. So again, go to a particular chart, tap the squiggle, and then Show Chart on Map. Overlays that chart on the map. You'll see these controls appear. The first is a slider, so to change the opacity of the chart. And then a clear button, which will remove the chart from the map. We've additionally got a little feature in here that if you zoom in on an airport, the airport diagram will just automatically appear. Similarly for Palmerston North. Here you go. Additionally, we have a start-stop timer for timing approaches and so on. So next, down the bottom, we have weather. So this is where all the weather-related information lives for the various regions you had selected. So let's find New Zealand. So in New Zealand, we have, you'll see actually this new satellite image view. It'll look like this. So it shows you your flight plan. You can see the outline of the coast and so on. And the cloud information. This is an animated overlay. So with our play button down here, we can get an animation of the weather. So you can see the current time of the image down here. And for good looks, we can even make it full screen, the weather page full screen. If we want to, we can pause it with the pause button and we can step forward and backwards. So the overlay is around 20 minutes delayed. You can see the time down here. There's a couple of other different options available under here. We've got visible colour, which is what you're looking at now, infrared grayscale, infrared plus lightning, visible grayscale, and then a colour enhanced view as well, which just shows you the temperatures of the cloud tops a bit more clearly. We have some quick links to get to MapFlight GA. Once you put in your username and password in here, it will remember it forever. And you can then get access to Met information. We've got some links to satellite sat, surface conditions, just a few charts and so on. So we can just tap on them to view the particular chart. So on. Winds aloft. Next we have text. This is where all the documentation lives. The New Zealand AIP You can see all the different sections. We can tap on them to view. Let's go to an interesting one. Air traffic flow management. That must be good. So yeah, just scroll through the document. We have a number of controls up here. One for the table of contents, if there are one in the document, which is not in this case. Bookmarks, a full text search capability. So we put in a piece of text and then search for it. We'll find any occurrence of that particular word. And then once we're finished looking at a document, we can close it. Now you'll notice that even with no document selected, we've still got a search. So that will search every document in that particular section that we're looking at. So let's search for VFR. It looks at all the documents for that particular piece of text. You get the idea. You can load your own documents in here. You can link it with Dropbox and so on. So it's quite powerful. Lastly is all the AvPlan documentation. So our quick start guide and user manual are found here as well. We have a notepad to record notes. So if you fly with multiple devices, your notes will synchronize across both devices. Yeah, this is me drawing from my other tablet. I know it doesn't really seem like much, but anyway. So this is actually Android. Yeah. So we have a notepad there. You can change the colours and the thicknesses of the lines and so on. You can erase the last bit of thing or a last sort of annotation or delete them completely. Clear. Get the idea. It really comes alive if you've got an iPad Pro with the pencil. You can actually write quite detailed notes. And my handwriting's pretty bad, but you get the idea. Clear. And the last tab is settings. Settings where we have sort of all the properties around how the app behaves can be changed. The first one is the most important, which is data downloads. So this is where you save all the AIP and the charts and things for offline use. When it's green, that means you've saved everything. Green is good. So you can use the device offline and everything will be available to you. Every 2 months, the AIP gets updated, and every year or so, the charts. When that happens, you get a notification around a week prior that there's new data to be downloaded, and you'll get either an email and an in-app notification. When you see that, you go in here under Settings, Data Downloads, and down the bottom here, there's this red Update button. It's hidden away at the moment, but trust me, it's there. You tap that and the app will download everything it needs, all the updates it needs, and save them on the device and automatically switch over at midnight on the appropriate day. There's a whole bunch of user settings in here. You pop in your username there to link the app with our website to activate subscriptions. You can hook the app up with X-Plane or Flight Simulator. You can enable things like airspace, runway warnings, terrain warnings, audible notification that you can choose either voice and that.
Hello, my name is Emily. Volume check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And you can enable airspace, runway, terrain warnings, altitude, frequency changes, headings, battery status, and they come in through your headset or any other sort of Bluetooth attached device or audio device. You can change some of the options around printing. You can enable AvPlan Live, which is the tracking system. So with that, you send periodic messages to us every 5 seconds or so. So we have sort of a detailed history of where you've been, so that if you don't turn up at your destination, we can tell people where to start looking. And that has actually happened, so it is a useful thing to have enabled. We have the option now to have a full screen nav log. So with that enabled, the app changes, and we've now got a flight plan tab down here, as well as planning, en route, terminal, weather, text, whatever. And we can turn it off. You can sync aircraft details and flight plans across multiple devices, so that if you have an iPhone and an iPad or 2 iPads and so on, and your subscription works on all your devices, so you don't need to buy extra subscriptions. But this way, sort of all your details will be synchronized across with our service. Details for flight planning, things like, you know, your name, your IFAS login goes in here. You can select what detailed data areas you want on your device. So if you just fly New Zealand, just tick New Zealand, then the data updates are quite small. And then a few other options, and then you can change some of the colours that are inside the app as well. So if you don't like the colours we've chosen for airspace overlays and so on, you can change those. You can buy subscriptions here, but we don't recommend that you do that because these are quite expensive. So AvPlan sold as an annual subscription. You buy a subscription of us, and then we give you all the data updates and the application software updates for a year. And if you tap these buttons, 30% of this number goes to Apple, and we get 70%. However, if you go to our website and buy a subscription there, you get it for that 70% price. So the price for New Zealand is $129 for VFR, and the whole package is $199 instead of those two added up, which is quite a lot. So it pays to subscribe on our website. If you've bought a subscription inside the app, there's not much we can do about it now, but next year you can go to our website and then buy the next year's subscription from the website. License information, the aircraft type database. So this is where we have an index of aircraft type that are saved on your device, and then down the bottom in blue are all the ones on our website. To import one, you just tap on it with our finger, and then you can go and add in your individual customizations, like, you know, call sign and that kind of stuff. If there's no aircraft type, you can create them yourself, and there's information in our manual how to do that. And otherwise, if you send us the details we need, which is the usual kind of POH information, we can create a profile for you. You can connect AvPlan EFB to a bunch of external devices, ADSB receivers, Avidynes, Dyne and Skyview. And lastly, there's a way of contacting us to get help and other assistance. You can search through our help desk, frequently asked questions, and you can send us a contact email through that system. So that's how and where everything's sort of laid out. There is a recording of this, so you can go back and look at it later. Now, I'm going to go through just some example VFR flight plans, so you can see sort of how the workflow works when you create a flight plan. You can see our flight plan here on the left-hand side. Up the top is a button that says Stored Plans. If we tap on that, it asks us if you want to save or discard our flight plan changes, or discard those, for example. and we get a list index of all the flight plans I've created on our device, on my device, quite a lot. To create a new flight plan, there's this big green button that says New Plan. We tap on that. AvPlan automatically chooses the flight rules and so on that we used before, or we can change them. So we'll create a VFR plan. And probably the easiest way of creating a flight plan is just by tapping on the map. So let's say we want to fly from Tauranga to Napier. So tap on the map at Tauranga, tap on the blue plus, we'll add it to our flight plan. There it is here. You'll notice these coloured dots, that's the METAR, so the closest METAR reporting station within, or the one within 5 miles of that point. So you get an idea of what the weather's like. Actually, let's go down to Otaki to visit my mother-in-law. So my wife's a Kiwi, grew up in Featherston near Wellington, and my mother-in-law lives in Otaki. So let's fly down and say hello to her. Tap on the map near Otaki, tap on the blue plus to add it to our flight plan. So there we go. So we can edit our route just sort of by tapping and holding on the red line and dragging it where we want to go. So we don't want to fly, for example, way over Hakia. We're going to fly around it. So tap and hold, drag, and let's fly over Fielding, for example. See that again? Let's fly over Taupo. Tap and hold on the track line, drag it where we want to go, let go, and then tap on the blue plus to insert it in our flight plan. So now we have our flight plan. If we don't like anywhere, we can tap on a particular waypoint and delete it out of our flight plan. Additionally, we can swipe these rows and either delete it or do a whole bunch of other things like land there, pass a beam there, and so on. So I had a question. The blue circles just give you an indication that it's in sort of drag mode, so that just appears around your finger. And tap on the blue plus to insert it in our flight plan. But you can also tap hold on a waypoint and drag a waypoint somewhere as well. If you just want to fly over a particular place, so this dam over here, we can just pop in a user waypoint just by tapping insert. So again, let's fly over Ring. Get the idea. We can pop in altitudes in here, and that will fill down the flight plan. So let's say we just want to fly at 5,500, for example. Automatically pulls in the winds aloft and so on. Once we're happy with our route, we can go to planning, and we can do things like find the optimum altitude to fly at based on the aircraft performance and winds aloft, and it highlights the correct hemispherical level. So it looks like 4.5 or 6.5 will be the fastest for today. We'll tap planning to go back. We can then go to aircraft loading to load people and fuel in the aircraft. So we'll put, say, 2 people in the front, 180 kilos. We'll put full fuel, 280 litres on board. Once we do that, it calculates our takeoff weight, landing weight, and zero fuel weight. So takeoff green, landing orange, and zero fuel weights there in grey. We've got the maximum takeoff weight here, our takeoff weight, landing weight, 0 fuel weight. The colours correspond. How many people are on board? Excuse me. And then our fuel plan, so taking into account climb, cruise, alternates, descent, that kind of stuff. Climb time and fuel, cruise time and fuel, subtotal, variable reserves, fixed reserves, they're all set in your aircraft profile and you can customise it there. Holding, approach, taxi, fuel, endurance, that kind of stuff. So once we're happy with that, we can go back to planning. We can get a briefing from IFIS, so that's a complete route briefing for the route to be flown. It won't work for me because I'm not in New Zealand, but for you it will. So I can't sort of demonstrate that. And then we can choose to file a flight plan via IFIS. You pop your details in here, you can put in the SAR time, and then go submit, and we'll submit a SAR time for you. And then we can cancel that flight plan as well. Okay, so we're back on the map page. We're going to start our flight. We can zoom in here, we'll see where we're taxiing around. So before we taxi, we can pop the flight plan in fly mode. So that's basically changing a few subtle things around the way the app behaves, like I said before. So the map's a bit less responsive. The terrain and obstacle warnings will now use a GPS instead of your flight planned altitude to highlight those things. It'll start recording your track and so on. So you taxi, you take off, and when you're in the air and reach that point where you would look at your watch and go, oh, I've departed the aerodrome, I should record my departure time. You can tap this departure button up the top here, where the arrow is. That logs our departure time and then updates the planned ETAs down our nav log with the time intervals based on these times in our nav log and not the GPS, because you're probably still on climb at this point. Our ground speed's quite low, so if this was based on your GPS, the times would be way out. However, this is based on a model of your aircraft, winds, performance, all that sort of stuff. So these times are pretty accurate. So at that point, you know what time you're going to reach your destination. As you fly past each waypoint, it will automatically sequence recording the arrival time and updating these ETAs as we fly past. You can see on the map itself, your active leg is magenta, your previous legs are blue, and the ones in the future are red, and that changes as you keep flying along. You can see details based from the GPS about your active leg, so the altitude you're currently at. That's the height of the ground here where I am. Your tracks, your ground speeds, the time intervals, and ETA at that waypoint. Similarly, up on the HUD, you can see our active waypoint, your altitude, the grid lower safe altitude, tracks and headings, TASs, distances to the next waypoint, destination, time, cross-track errors and GPS errors and so on. And yes, so if you forget this plan, fly, BIZO and the departure, don't worry. Once we detect you're in the air and you're 2 nautical miles from the airport, we'll log your departure time and everything will start running. Now, we've had a question around, can you save this nav log after your flight? And the answer is yes. So we can do it in a number of different formats. Under planning and then print, send, you can post-flight, this flight plan will be a nav log which is completely filled out. It's in PDF format. So that's under planning, print, send. Additionally, you'll notice this box with an arrow pointing out of it under our flight plan, and this allows us to email the flight plan and airdrop it and so on, or send it to another app. So that sends it in GPX format. So if I tap email, for example, you'll see that. So you'll see an attachment in GPX format, which can be imported then in Google Earth and anything that understands GPX files. So when you send a flight plan from here, you get a link to a live tracking website, so you can send that to others and they'll see where you are as you fly along. There's our flight plan in GPX format and a little picture of our flight plan as well. Cancel, delete. So multiple ways of skinning the cat. Under print send, you can see that we can also print briefing and then the ARP pages for your particular flight. Go back to en route. So once you reach your destination, you land, you can then tap the plan fly button, puts the app in planning mode, stops the track log recording and so on. Then we can close the flight plan and create a new one, do whatever we want to do. So that's sort of a brief overview of AvPlan and how to sort of find information, because finding it is half the battle. We've done a lot of work into trying to logically group information, but if you've got no idea where to start to look, this will help. And we've gone through some pretty basic sort of flight planning as well. We have an advanced webinar next week at the same time. Where we'll go more into in-depth flight planning around multiple stages and IFR and all sorts of other great stuff. There's a whole bunch of other resources to help you get started with AvPlan EFB. We've got a whole bunch of tutorial videos on our website and a whole bunch of tips as well. So under our blog, there's a whole bunch of sort of little tips that are sent out each week or so. We have a phone number in New Zealand that's on our website. And if you call us, we'll answer and we will help you. And we have our support email address. So email us at support@avplan-efb.com and so on. Had a question around do we have a simulator mode to help practice sort of flying? We do not. We can connect it with X-Plane or Flight Simulator, so Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then you'll see the aircraft moving along. But there's no inbuilt simulator function as yet. That is a request that's in our list of things to do. Our list of things to do is about 800 items long. Yes, we do our best to get through them. Is there any other suggestions for functionality you'd like to see, please either give us a call or send us an email, and we'll quite happily tell you either when it will be done or if it can be done or not. We've got so many plans of what to do. As our business keeps growing, which it has, very strongly, we can employ more developers and get more stuff done. So the more encouragement you can have to, if you're a subscriber, to others to subscribe, that would be fantastic. So we can then keep expanding our product and building upon it. And if you're not a subscriber, please become one, because with your assistance, we can then sort of add extra functions for other people and other ideas, which will be great. We're a Australian/New Zealand company. We provide services all around the world, and I'm currently living in Denver, Colorado, expanding the business in Australia, in the US and Europe and South America as well. And then we have a whole team in Australia. We've had significant uptake in AvPlan EFB in New Zealand. Probably our biggest customer now is New Zealand Defence Force. So most aircraft you see flying around with the Kiwi on the side will be using our software, which is really exciting. We have a whole bunch of others like smaller regional airlines and Massey University, which are probably one of the largest flight schools in New Zealand, also are completely paperless with AvPlan, which is fantastic. And we get a lot of support from them, which is great. If you've got any other questions, feel free to type them in. This webinar will be available online. You'll get a link in an email. Additionally, it'll be on YouTube, so you can sort of help refer to others. If you want to join us next week for our advanced webinar, please do. We'd love to have you. If you've got any questions you want to see covered, feel free to send us an email to our support thing and we'll make sure we add that in. So yes, thank you very much for your attendance. And yeah, if we can help you, please let us know. And we look forward to working with you in the future. So safe flying and have a great weekend. Rightio, thanks.